Sonic may be one of the most beloved mascots in video game history, but what happens when he breaks the fourth wall and enters the real world? Well, here's 10 times Sonic went crazy in real life. Starting off at number 10, we have Sonic Unleashed. Sonic Unleashed was meant to take full advantage of the power of the PS3 and Xbox 360. But while the graphics and scope of this game were a huge step up from previous titles, it was also much darker and more serious. And the reason for that is because Sonic's arch-nemesis, Eggman, releases a dark energy known as the Eclipse Cannon. This dark energy corrupts Sonic, turning him into a werewolf. Now, this may sound like an awesome idea to Sega and Sonic fans, but the reality was much different. Not only did the werehog gameplay get boring very quickly, but the cutscenes just made things even worse, as they were extremely creepy and out of place compared to the rest of the light-hearted Sonic games. The general consensus was that the werehog Sonic and its dark tone was a complete failure and should never have been included in the first place. At No. 9, we have Sonic and the Black Knight. This game doesn't really get the same hate as Sonic Unleashed, but it definitely could have been much better. For starters, it took the gameplay of Sonic and the Black Knight in the completely wrong direction. Instead of having fast-paced levels with tons of rings to collect, you now had to explore these massive open worlds and search for these hidden emeralds. Even though these levels looked beautiful, the gameplay was extremely repetitive. On top of that, the boss fights were also extremely boring and uninspired. To make matters even worse, the story ripped off the legend of King Arthur and the Holy Grail. And if that wasn't bad enough, the final battle against the final boss is literally the worst. And I mean the absolute worst of all time. If you want to know more about how awful this fight truly is, I suggest you check out Game Grump's playthrough of this game. No. 8. Sonic Free Riders. Now, this game isn't necessarily bad, but it has some pretty questionable design choices. So the goal of the game is simple. You control a hoverboard and you need to race your opponents to the finish line. Now that sounds like fun, right? Well, there's just one problem. All of the tracks are just awful. They have no creativity whatsoever and are just lazy rip-offs of other hoverboard games. There are no loops, corkscrews, or anything that makes this game unique. Not to mention the camera angles make it almost impossible to see where you're going. Number 7. Sonic Boom. After the release of Sonic Lost World, Sega decided to shift the Sonic brand over to a more family-friendly audience by creating a new animated series. Now, this cartoon actually wasn't terrible. In fact, I would watch it every morning when I was younger. However, it did have its share of problems. For example, the animation was pretty cheap and reused a lot of the same recycled assets over and over again. It also didn't help that the voice acting was pretty subpar as well. But I think my biggest problem with this show was the fact that it tried way too hard to be like the modern Sonic games. For example, in one episode, Sonic says it's time to blow your mind. I was like, whoa, did Sonic just break the fourth wall? But then he continues, "'cause I'm the fastest thing alive," and I was just like, oh, okay. Number 6, Sonic Spinball. Sonic Spinball is basically a spin-off of the classic Sonic the Hedgehog games, except you play as a ball. That's pretty much it. Your objective is to roll through each level, find the key to unlock the door, avoid the bad guys, and try not to fall off the stage. Like, what even is this game? Out of all the spin-off games, this is easily one of the worst. No. 5. Sonic CD. Now, this game has a pretty interesting concept. The basic premise of the game is that you travel through time and fix mistakes you made in the past. Unfortunately, this game aged terribly. Not only does the music sound absolutely awful, but the graphics are a complete mess. Sonic looks like he has buck teeth and the backgrounds seem like they were drawn by a 5-year-old. Also, don't even get me started on the cutscenes. These are by far some of the most disturbing cutscenes in video game history. I mean, what is this? Number 4, Sonic Labyrinth. Sonic Labyrinth is another one of those weird spin-off games. This time, instead of being a side-scrolling platformer, It's a first-person maze game. Not only are the graphics and gameplay dull, but the level design is also confusing and uninspired. No. 3. Sonic and Tails. In Sonic and Tails, you control two characters, Sonic and Tails. However, they each control differently. Sonic can run at high speeds, but he can only hold a limited amount of rings. Meanwhile, Tails can't attack, but he can carry as many rings as possible. And you have to switch between both characters to progress. Gameplay-wise, it's very similar to other platformers of its time, but what sets it apart is the fact that you have to manage two characters at once. Note 2. Sonic 06. Sonic 06 is the worst Sonic game ever made, period. This game has everything wrong with it. The character models look incredibly creepy, the gameplay is unbelievably buggy, the level design is repetitive and boring, and the list goes on and on. Oh, and not to mention the infamous scene where Sonic and Princess Elise kiss. This game single-handedly ruined Sonic's reputation. And finally, at No. 1, we have Sonic or Sonic R is a kart racing game similar to Mario Kart, but with Sonic characters. What makes it stand out is the fact that it was the first Sonic game to feature 3D graphics. However, while the graphics may have been impressive at the time, everything else about this game is awful. The tracks are incredibly boring, the character models are extremely outdated, and the camera angles make you motion sick. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more content.